Well, there's some fresh data out today on inflation and the everyday prices that Canadians pay. And it shows that groceries are getting more expensive more quickly than many other items. The CBC's Heydari is on this story for us from Calgary. So, Anis, what are we seeing in these numbers?
When we look at the overall inflation rate, which is measured by something called the Consumer Price Index, the StatsCan says that went up 2.2%. So that means that the prices of not everything, but, that sort of basket of goods that they look at across the country, those prices were up overall 2.2% in November of this year compared to the year before. Now, overall, that's only a little bit higher than last month, but it looks a little worse for your wallet if we talk about the things that people buy all the time, food in particular. Grocery inflation was at its highest rate since the end of 2023, 4.7% prices higher, or prices were 4.7% higher for groceries this year in November compared to last year. Now, that is the speed that prices go up, and if we recall over the last few years, that number has been a little bigger than just 4.7. So you're certainly going to be at the grocery store and say, everything feels way more expensive than that. And part of that is because over time, inflation has really been increasing the cost of food for us. But it keeps happening, in particular with beef. That was something that was singled out by Statistics Canada. There's fewer cattle out there in general as one part of what's driving up the cost. There's less supply, but demand is either staying the same or maybe going up a little bit. We don't have that data, but it's meant that beef is up 17.7%. Coffee, also way more expensive in November of this year compared to the year before, 27.8% higher. There's climate as a factor there, weather patterns in some of the countries that grow coffee, but American tariffs as well. Coffee imported in the U.S. saw higher prices from Donald Trump's tariffs, and some of that clearly spilled over into Canada, even though we didn't tariff coffee in quite the same way. Gasoline saw a little bit of a drop compared to last year, although higher than last month, so a bit of a bright spot there, but then it gets dark again if you're paying for your cell phone. Mobile service plans, cell phone plans, 12.7% higher in November of 2025 than the year before, Arthi. So a lot of things we pay for every day are getting pretty expensive, a lot faster than everything else.
So despite the fact that the cost of what you put on your table is rising and so many other things, it looks like people might be able to afford a vacation. Travel prices have dropped. What are the numbers saying about that?
Yeah, we've seen some prices, and it's not just that inflation is lower, prices for accommodation, traveler accommodation fell by almost 7% in November compared to the year before. The biggest contributor of that was actually something that you might call a swift change, because in November 2024, prices really went up in Ontario because of Taylor Swift's concerts. And so those didn't happen this year. And so that meant that prices fell quite a bit. And if you compare this year to last year, it makes it look like the inflation rate really plummeted for accommodations. And you could, in theory, blame that on Taylor Swift. I'm not sure she is going to care very much about the inflation rate in Canada, but there you go.
Okay, good to know. Thank you for this, Anis. That is the CBC's Heydari reporting for us in Calgary.